In the Bible, it says that we have overcome the evil one, which is Satan, by the blood of the Lamb, that's Jesus, and by the word of our testimonies, that's our stories.
Hey guys, my name is Nikki, and I'm just going to talk with you for a few minutes and just share a little bit of my journey and some of my hope story that's kind of happened with me in the last few years, and just tell you a little bit about me. So, grew up in the church and was baptized at the age of 12 at a church camp. Very typical upbringing for someone who was raised in the church and raised in a Christian family. And so had great, really solid foundations when it came to my faith and who Jesus was and who God is, and all of that, just of how much God loves us and how he's there for us. And so very typical upbringing. Didn't have too many challenges in my childhood that would have ever really made me question my faith, would have ever questioned my hope in him. But as we all know, life isn't always kind, and sometimes life gets hard. And for me, that came just a few years ago. So fast forward from being baptized at 12 to about 2017. At this point, I have been married for a little over 8 years at this point. And we have a 2.5-year-old, my husband and I, and life was good. We owned a house. We found a church family here at Whitewater. We were very happy, very, very confident in where we were, and felt very blessed by God about all the things. We had a great community of friends and family, and just were feeling really good about where we were in our life. And in May of 2017, I started exhibiting what I would later find out were some very weird symptoms, but some symptoms that I thought were just symptomatic of a cold, or being a mom who worked full-time and just being overtired and overworked and not taking care of myself the way that moms do sometimes. And so I just had some weird symptoms of not breathing correctly and just being very, very tired. I also had some weird hip pain and just chalked it up to, getting older. So fast forward to August of 2017, and my husband and I had gone for a quick weekend trip in Detroit to celebrate his 30th birthday. And we come home, and from Sunday to Wednesday, I just started to feel substantially worse. Didn't know what was going on. Wound up in the hospital and ran a gamut of tests. And when I say gamut, I mean 48 hours straight of just constant tests. Met with a lot of different doctors, and we weren't really sure what was going on, but we trusted that we had been placed in the right hospital and with the right people that were going to take care of us and give us the answers that we were looking for. So fast forward through those couple of days, and we come to find out that all of my symptoms were coming from a 5-inch mass that was here in my chest, that we actually ended up finding out was, the big medical name for it was diffused large B-cell lymphoma, or in non-big medical words, it was stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So imagine my shock at the age of 31, totally healthy, as what doctors would say, and I have a cancer diagnosis, to me, for what seemed out of nowhere. And from that moment forward, my world kind of spun out of control, is what it felt like to me. And so from that day of diagnosis, I was in the hospital for the next 19 days. And in those 19 days, I had to have a dual surgery. There was a fracture in my hip from the cancer cells. I had to have pins put in. I had a chest drain put in. Before this had all started, we had just recently found out that I was expecting again. And because of the complications and the exhaustion that my body was experiencing, we unfortunately miscarried a few weeks later. So imagine what I'm feeling as a 31-year-old who's grown up in the church, who has had God in her life constantly. And you might think, okay, well, she must be thinking, okay, God's got this. Well, I'd be lying to you if I said that was my first initial gut reaction. Initially, I asked why. What has happened? What's going on that this is happening to me? I have a 2.5-year-old at home. How am I going to take care of him if I have cancer? And I've just lost another child. And so I had moments of really, moments of not a lot of hope, to be very honest with you. But this is where my story starts to have a lot of change and a lot of really hopeful moments in it. God showed up in big ways during my cancer journey. So a lot happened in the 19 days that I was in the hospital. But by the end of it, we figured out the treatment that I needed very quickly and very promptly. And I just had this calm that I couldn't explain when the doctors would talk to me about my treatment and what was going to happen and the side effects and that it was 6 months long and that I'd have to be in the hospital every time. It was a lot of information, but at the end of all of it, I just had this calm. And I couldn't explain it any other way except for that there were so many things in the timeline that had happened that I could just see God working in it. There were so many things that happened that there was no way to explain it except that it was God working in my life. So fast forward to the end of the 6 months and I'm deemed cancer-free. My cancer responded amazingly and miraculously per the doctors. And I get to ring the bell and I'm cancer-free and I'm officially put in remission 2 months later. And here I am 2 years later and feeling very blessed and very lucky and having lots of hope. And I will not lie to you again. If I were to sit here and tell you that I'm a hopeful person every day, all day, I'm not. I have moments of still questioning where I am and what I'm doing and what God's doing in my life sometimes, and that's okay. But there's this verse that I used a lot during my treatment when I had those moments of feeling alone and feeling like I wasn't gonna make it and having those hopeless moments. It's Isaiah 43:2, and it says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze." And I just felt like that summed up my entire journey. There were so many times where I was feeling so overwhelmed that I just felt like it was gonna take me, and God would just show up and take my hand and say, "I've got you. We're gonna do this. We're gonna get through this. You're gonna be okay." And that those moments provided such hope for me. And he showed up for me in such hopeful ways through my husband and my family and the community of friends that I have that I do life with, and in the church family that I had so many moments of hope that I can't give credit to any other person and any other entity than God, that I'm standing here today sharing my story with you. So I hope that hearing that in those moments where you feel like there's nothing left for you, there's no hope, whether it's medical or it's spiritual or it's financial, whatever that looks like, that you know that you are God's child, and when you walk through the fire, you're not going to be set ablaze and the water's not going to sweep over you, because he loves you and he's going to take care of you. And that hope is something that we have to hold on to in order to get through each day. So I hope that you are able to find some hope in that verse, and you're able to just find some hope knowing that God loves you and that he's with you every step of the way.
In the Bible, it says that we have overcome the evil one, which is Satan, by the blood of the Lamb, that's Jesus, and by the word of our testimonies, that's our stories.